Um, so for those of you who've been helping support me the past 2 days, thank you for coming out, and for Kat for your talk. Thanks for sharing. It was really beautiful. Thank you. Um, yeah, I can be a little louder. Yeah. So I think today I just want to share this more as a story among friends. So this is the story of the birth of the lion's den, which is kind of part of my own healing story. And I guess it starts when I was born. I was born to two parents in Chicago who both had personality disorders. I didn't know what those were then, but I was a very conscious young child. And I knew something was wrong, and from a very young age I told my parents they needed help. But you can't tell people who need help that they need help and expect them to get help. I come to learn. And it was tough. I had a brother that was younger than me. His name was Charles. He was 3 years younger than me. To give you an idea of how conscious I was, when I was 3, I was spanked pretty bad for opening a present on Christmas that was supposed to be donated because I wanted to play with it as a toy. And I remember being really upset and really hurt and being like, I know where matches are, and at 3 I can figure out how to burn this house down. And I laid under this buffet in my house because it was like cocoon-like. It was like my parents didn't hold me or touch me very often. And I remember contemplating that at 3. Not much longer after that, there was an incident where my father took me to a park and didn't pay attention, and took off my socks and shoes and wandered into a pond and stepped on glass. And so I needed stitches in my foot, which was, I think it was like 4 or 5 stitches, which doesn't sound like much, but to a 4-year-old, that's actually a lot of stitches. That's a big section of your foot. And I couldn't walk, so I had to crawl everywhere. So I had to like relearn how to walk again properly. And you'd think that's not that much, injuries happen, stuff happens, but because of that, like I've never really liked running. It wasn't until like way late in college, like I enjoyed running. That seems like a weird thing, but it's amazing how these little things in our lives echo through our experience of existence. When we moved away from the house I grew up in, the first house we grew up in, I didn't get to say goodbye to the house. It sounds like another small thing, but when you're in a household where you're constantly abandoned, or the attention you do get is toxic, leaving your house to go to your grandparents and then never seeing it again without even get to say goodbye is actually pretty traumatic. Kids don't actually need much, I found, now that I've had my own daughter. They just need a heads up. Hey, we are going to be moving to a new house. I know you're going to cry and this is going to suck, but it's going to be great. Well, my parents did none of that. They never wanted to deal with emotion, I guess, on some level, if they couldn't. Would you like to join us? Feel free to hang out, or not, whatever you want. It's the bird. So, like, I was left alone a lot. As I grew older, like, we moved to a new house in LaGrange, Illinois. This is the western suburbs of Chicago. And things got worse. My dad would disassociate. My parents would fight so bad, like you would literally be down the block and hear him screaming every day. Like people knew the house. But like nobody called the cops, nobody did anything for the kids. So all I can say on that is if you see something going on, say something. Like those kids can't speak for themselves. And fast forward a bit, I finally get friends in high school because my parents didn't have friends. I didn't know how to build friends. There's so much modeling in your life that you have that if you don't see your parents doing things, you don't know how to do it because you just haven't experienced it. So a lot of my learning has been very difficult doing it as an adult, going back going, fuck, I gotta be an awkward child through all these things, and I'm still doing it. It's very frustrating. But it would be bad. Lots of insults, bad things said. I said bad things too. Like if you're around that environment, you become a little toxic, maybe even a lot toxic. So like, I was both the aggressor and the victim, which is a shame. I feel shame for that. And when I was 18, I cut off the end of my finger. I was working on a motorcycle. I've learned that when you're in an environment like that, for myself at least, when things were really bad, I would kind of lose consciousness, if you will. And that's where blackout periods happen. People say, hey, I don't remember that period of my life. Chances are it's your body saying there's really bad stuff there. You got really hurt. If you were to feel those feelings and integrate that right now, you would not be able to function through your day and you need to survive. And as I've gone through my healing process, some of that stuff's come back. Some of it may never, and I'm okay with that. You know, like, it's what it is. After I cut off the end of my finger, I ended up moving out at 18, living in a two-bedroom apartment with 6 people. Didn't have a car, so I had my motorcycle. Chicago has winters. So I was driving my motorcycle around just to be anywhere but in my house. And like the way I survived, so this is one of the tools to survive that environment, is to insulate. Just get the fuck away as much as you can. Just get out of the environment. And then I didn't think I was smart enough to go to college. My parents both had advanced degrees, but they never really talked to me about college or why I should go, or really told me I was smart. Like I struggled in school, and so, despite me acing my tests, I couldn't do homework. If I started doing homework, I'd get screamed at, or something else would come up, or like you were damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. So if I'm damned no matter way, like I do it, why do it? Why do it? Like fuck it. I have now more free time. I'm gonna get screamed at either way. Like I get the shit. Like fuck it. Not a great. I don't recommend that. That is a very thing that is hard to break. Like that's really hard to break. I'm still working on that. But I went to Wyoming Tech to work on cars. I love working on cars. They made sense to me. But nobody went, oh, maybe you should consider engineering. Maybe you should go into some other fabrication, or even take that interest and apply it somewhere else. There's a lot of places you have that very physical understanding of machinery. That mindset actually works in a lot of different places. I just didn't have those parents who even paid attention enough to care. It was all about control for them. And then when I was out there, one of the times, right before I left on that trip, I tried to ask my girlfriend at the time to marry me, which was incredibly dumb. Incredibly dumb. So you're gonna now hear a long list of poor decisions. Starting there. I had been doing a little bit of ecstasy at that point in my life, and it was one of the first times I connected with the feeling of love, because the first time I did it, someone said, this is what love feels like. You don't need the drug for this. And it gave me an anchor point on what I was supposed to be feeling, and it really helped me start healing. That was early. And one of those nights where I was doing that, I was out by the rocks in Chicago, which is right on the lake, and I asked the universe, what should I do? Which I normally don't do. Even though I was raised Protestant and Catholic, I hate myself because of that. Yes. The answer was no, don't go. And I was like, fuck you, I'm going. I can't be here. It's bad. This is bad. At some level, I think I was really angry with the universe and God, because I was like, you brought me into this world to be punished. Like, from birth. That's not right. I was very angry. I was a very angry kid. So I went to Wyoming, and a lot of bad stuff happened in 3 months in Wyoming. I hit black ice on the way there, almost went oncoming traffic. I would four-wheeling drunk with my roommate, got stuck in the mountains in the dead of winter there, and had to climb down with a Dago an A t-shirt and a leather jacket, and walk backwards down a mountain and like into the wind, and walk house to house before I could find somebody who was willing to drive me to town, because we were way the fuck in the middle of nowhere in Wyoming. Like that is nowhere. Lucky to live through that. Got alcohol poisoning with people who, instead of like giving you water, when you start coming more conscious, give you more liquor. So you could imagine that. And these are also the same kind of people who carried guns and had drugs, and I was making really poor decisions. But they accepted me, and I thought that was friends and family. Turns out that that's not always the case. And so we get in a van to go pick up a used car, and on the way to go pick it up, the driver falls asleep while I'm asleep in the back seat without a seatbelt. He drives off the road at 95 miles an hour, and we flip a bunch of times. And to this day, I don't necessarily know if I lived or died through that, because I wasn't awake for when it happened. I just remember ping-ponging around, not with my eyes open, I just remember the sensation, and then it is daylight. And they are already out of the car, so they're the kind of people who aren't checking on the person in the car, they're the ones hiding shit. Because we had pot in the car and alcohol. I wake up and somebody called an ambulance, and they wanted to evac me because I looked really bad. And I denied the evac, and I got in the ambulance. And it took 45 minutes to get to the hospital. I had to pee the whole fucking time. Tip for Playa, if you see a bathroom, use it. At every moment. Words to live by. You don't need to go, just do it, yeah. 45 minutes is brutal. Get to the hospital, the doctor says, do you go to church? I said, no, I haven't gone in a while. He goes, well, I've never seen somebody live through an accident like that without a seatbelt, let alone walk away without injuries, like major injuries. And I was bruised, I was in pain, I was in shock. They went on ahead and bought this used car. They get back, and then I'm the one who has to drive it because it turns out neither of them have a valid driver's license. So I drive through these mountains of Utah at night, the headlights don't work on the damn thing. We get stuck in it, we park for a night. I sleep in a Denny's after telling this woman my poor story, and she's like, yeah, you can just sleep. Because I didn't have my own clothes, I didn't have any money. Like, it was not fun. Poor decisions. And she let me sleep there though. And the next morning we have to go to Walmart because the oil filter blew up, and I had to use 3 different books to cross-reference what the right oil filter was for this 1976 BMW 2002. And we had to steal the oil and oil filters, and then they sold the little bit of weed they had for gas money. And we got back. And I called up my ex-girlfriend, which was not the best decision, but she lovingly came out anyways. And we get in my truck, and I'm like, I'm fucking out of here. Like the next day, I was done. And we get stuck in Nebraska for 3 days and my truck breaks down. 3 days with my ex-girlfriend was not a good time. Not a good decision. We're friends now. She's happily married, she's a wonderful daughter. But at that time, yeah, very, very poor decisions. So I get back, I kind of get my life back a little bit together. I go to college again, I'm DJing. And on summer break, I lose my brother and his 2 friends. Charles, Pat, and Mike went out a boat with Adam. It was a paddle boat on Lake Michigan. And at some point, they all swam to make it ashore. We don't know why, we don't know the story, because Adam, who made it to shore, and he didn't get help. He didn't tell anybody about it. And he went back to the party and he didn't tell anybody. And it wasn't until hours later, people were saying, where is everybody? That he finally said, oh, they might be in trouble. And they called 911. It was in the news, we searched for days. There's a nice group of loving people who created a search party. We actually went on boats and looked island on island, but it got called off and the bodies were found. And he was the only one who witnessed how bad things were at my house. And what sucked is, like, I got out and I kept meaning to, like, reach back and be like, you come with me. Like, I didn't think about how, because I was the one who got the brunt of it the whole time, how he might have been getting it now that I'd left. So I wasn't there when this happened. I'd just been back for summer break. And I lost 5 years of my life. I mean, it's black. It's black. Like, I have flashes of crying. I can't remember the day he died. I can remember his birthday. I keep trying to remember it. Like, it's a little bit better. I hold on a little bit longer, but it's just, it's not the part that I want to remember. I remember his life. It's not the day that it ends that I want to sit down and hold on to tightly. It's everything else. But after 5 years, I start working on myself a little bit. I start feeling a little stronger. I go to college. I finish my junior degree on liberal arts. And I realize I got to do something, and I just can't be in Chicago. I'm still not 100%, but I realize I can't stay where I'm at. Now I could go to either Berkeley, California for college or Florida Atlantic. And I had family in California. I just want to be on my own. I want to be away from everything. And without knowing a single soul, I just moved to Florida. I didn't even visit school, neither one. Just packed up, peace out. And I met my now ex-wife there. Her name's Brittany. She, when I first met her, was a lovely ray of sunshine. She was beautiful. She's still beautiful, it's just things are different now. And We stayed together 10 years, got engaged at the top of the Eiffel Tower, waited really long and saved up a lot of money, and my parents planned a trip, and I was like, okay, I wanted to do this years ago, but knowing we were working on this trip, like fairy tale, right? Like, we have an opportunity, I'm gonna take it. Originally it was gonna be in the Louvre because she's an artist, but it rained, didn't work out. And we get married, and the reason we got along so well at first is because we both had really terrible households. It's really great to meet people in misery. We do this. It's important that if you grow up in an environment like mine or hers, that other person's committed to healing though. They don't want that in their life because not everybody's there. And I wanted to keep going forward, and for a little while she did, but then that stopped, and when we got married, she became her mother, and her mother probably has undiagnosed borderline syndrome as well. And then we had a daughter, and while we were pregnant, my boss was trying to get me fired. We had our daughter. My daughter triggered a genetic disorder in her body that lied dormant called Loeys-Dietz. We didn't know this at first. She just started getting physically sick, and her mental health deteriorated rapidly. My daughter came back as having positive for cystic fibrosis, so we had to get tested for that. And I'm holding it all together. Like she's acting crazier and crazier, and like screaming, and like all the stuff that like I made clear that's not the house I want. I didn't want to live with that in my life ever again. Of course, is manifesting what you fear manifests, right? And so my daughter doesn't have cystic fibrosis, but she's a carrier. My ex and I are both carriers. We had to go through all these different doctors because our healthcare system's royally fucked up, but we couldn't even find a doctor who wanted to diagnose her because then they would be responsible. Like, that's how bad things are. Doctors only want to take responsibility for their own diagnoses because then they have to take care of their patient. Yeah, that was very frustrating to learn. And I couldn't get her to get any mental health help. We tried marriage counseling, but that counselor had no fucking clue what they were doing. Like, yeah, wrong person. So that made things worse. And then at some point I'm like, I'm getting help. You won't go, I'm going. And then she started cheating on me. And like one of the first times I got her out on a date, like, which was really hard, I couldn't get her out of the house or do anything or just talk, unless it was really out there screaming severe anxiety, crazy stuff. Yeah, I see this guy texting her. She's like, oh, it's for work. I'm like, you're an artist, you work on your own. Like, that's bullshit. Like, don't fucking bullshit me. Like, end that, or like, this is done. And on Christmas Eve of December 2016, she told me she wasn't gonna work on the marriage. And I had a 1-year-old daughter. So it was either check out or check in. And if I did not have my daughter, it would have been check out. At best, I would have picked up and just left and seen where the world take me. And at worst, like, it's been a lot. Like, there's way more in there. This is just the highlights of a life. It's tough. And I've met people with way worse lives. It's not about the volume, it's just the amount it's there. But on some level it also does add up if you aren't addressing it. And so I go and I talk to my friend Ryan, and he told me about Burning Man. It's something I wanted to do since I was in high school. So like 20 years this place was calling. California was calling me. For 20 years I turned it down, right? And is this okay? Okay. And so I don't want to learn anything about it. It's like I've wanted to go forever. I intentionally did not look at anything. Make plans. I was gonna solo camp. Like, I was determined. I am fucking going to Burning Man. And 2 weeks before I come out, my buddy Ryan's like, hey, do you want to come and camp with us? We're with the Avant-Garde. I'm like, yeah, like, sure. Like, that helps me with water. And like a shade structure, sure, great. That seems very important. Water in the desert. And he's not gonna be there till Wednesday, so I show up at my first day. And I walk up and our mayor, Tim Jim, greets me. And he's like, welcome home. And I'm like, this sure as hell does not feel like home. Like, I did not know which way was up here. Like I literally felt like I landed on another planet and nothing made sense. Because like, I didn't have a lot of good people in my life. Or I didn't recognize the ones that were there until they realized until they weren't there, because that's kind of how it works. You fade out. And so day one, I made friends with this guy, Matt, and we go walking. and I just have a few beers, and I come back and I'm like, I don't get this. What is going on here? Like, this place is cool, I'm having a good time, but I don't get this. Like, what the fuck? And day 2, I go to the Shaman Dome, and I do like my first what I'll call hippie thing. And I had a friend back then called me a closet hippie. It's like I was a big metalhead punk. It's just, you're such a fucking hippie. You're a closet hippie. Just own it. So now I own it. I'm a big hippie. Although I'll go more burner. I'm way more burner. But and I go to the Shaman Dome, and it turns out my spirit animal's a lion. And I go there just expecting, I'm a little high. I'm like, oh, this will be cool. I'll just relax. I won't see anything. And fuck, I had visions of lions. Like, that shit was real. And it was really impressive. So I'm like, okay, like, if that's real, what else is real? And then Wednesday, I go to this talk called Deep Dating on the Playa by Steve Behrman, which is great. If you guys get a chance to ever see him speak, I recommend it. And after each lesson, you pair up, and the third person I pair up with, we just look at each other and we just start bawling. Han and I just are sitting in a group, like a dome this big, filled with people, like just cuddled up, and we are just bawling, looking at each other, because we realized that we were both people who had not set healthy boundaries, or didn't have boundaries, didn't know what boundaries were, and we didn't even have to say a word. That's how much pain we both carried. And it was a really powerful, it was the best dating advice I ever had. Like, it was like literally step by step how to connect with a human being. And I needed literally that level of like holding a hand after being in that environment and losing so much of myself to like, I literally, in our marriage, cannibalized myself just to keep it together. Like, I literally cut every part of who I was apart just to keep the peace, just to keep her happy, just to keep her feeling safe and loved. Just not healthy. It's not loving. And afterwards, I go on a date with him, and it's really good. I'll come back to this. I forgot one other part. How that day started. That day started with my friend Noah and I going to get coffee at Center Camp. Noah had asked me the day before to go get coffee, and I turned her down. Here's this beautiful, blonde, large-breasted Israeli woman asking me to go get coffee, and I'm like, no. like, what the fuck am I thinking? I was fucking terrified. Like, I was so hurt that even talking to another like woman honestly felt so unsafe that I just said no. Like, I had been that hurt. I was like, maybe tomorrow. I saw her. I was like, maybe tomorrow. So that morning, we went out for a walk, and we walked out, and she was the first woman in years I could just tell about who I was and what I was experiencing in my life. And she just listened and said, okay. And then let me tell you about my life. And she told me about her family and her father. And at one point we're walking and we're going towards the man, and the dust just clears and a butterfly flies by. And I had not seen a bug there for days. And I was like, oh, look at this butterfly. I haven't seen anything like this. And she goes, oh, she has a tattoo of 2 butterflies on her arm. One that she picked out, one that her dad picked out. And it's one of the rare situations where 2 butterflies drink from the same flower. Although I don't know, there's probably more to it than that. I don't completely remember the story great, but it was really beautiful. I later get to meet her father. Her father's awesome too. And then we go to the man, and we keep talking. Then we go to the temple. We walk in the temple, and we just for like 5 minutes in there. All right, that's enough. I didn't know what that was, and now I'm here. I can't handle this right now. We walk, and we get back to camp, and we tell everybody about our day. I don't remember the last time I told somebody about my day. I don't remember the last time somebody said, how was your day? It's been years. Years since somebody like just showed and was like, how are you? On a level of intimacy that wasn't just like a friend, just how's things been, but like they really were like, I would love to hear about your day today. I told them about my day, and I told them about the butterfly. And no joke, I have this, I'm sitting there like this, I have this on, and a butterfly comes and lands right here on me. And they're all rolling spliffs. Probably a good time to light my own. And I tell them about how at some point in my life I started believing that when you see a bug out of place like that, it's something from the other side saying hi. I don't know where I got that belief, but when I would see that, I'd think of my brother. And then they told me that their belief is that butterflies ride on the front of rainstorms. So when you see butterflies, rainstorms are gonna come. And 5 fucking minutes later, it started sprinkling. And I was like, what the fuck? That's amazing. That is a serious level of synchronicity. And that's when the lights started going on a little bit for me. Like, okay, like, that's not my imagination. Like, I have people here sitting talking to me. I just told them the story, this happened. I'm like, you guys are all part of this. Like, oh yeah, Burning Man. I'm like, you fucking burning, what is, how is that the answer? But it is, you know? And so that was a beautiful. Hannah, after that whole event, we go on a date. She's the first woman I'm able to talk to about anything sensual or erotic, and just about the pain and the trauma of being in a relationship where you have cannibalized your emotions, your intellect, your sexuality. You literally shut off yourself to the world and even your partner, because to be open to your partner when they are hurting you hurts even more. So now you turn all of that off. And turning it off is a skill I learned to survive as a kid, but surviving is not thriving, and that's not healthy. And sometimes it takes a lot to learn to turn those things back on. I leave Hannah. I go out walking with my buddy Ryan for a walkabout because I want to see him. We run into Sky. And Sky and I start talking, and Ryan are talking. I tell her about like the marriage I was leaving and everything. And she's like, I had the same thing. I have kids. I'm working through the same stuff. And she seemed a little farther down that path. I'm like, okay, like what do I do? And she's like, you just got to learn how to flirt again. Still working on that one. Baby steps. Because I was like, I don't know how to flirt. Like, I'm either like terrified or like, all right, let's just go fuck. Like, it's either like on or off, no throttle. We ended up kissing a little bit, which was nice. And my buddy Ryan's like, oh, I'll just leave you guys. And I'm like, no, I'm enjoying this, but she's kind of not, like, that energy's not there, and I came to see you. So I go after Ryan, and it's already too late. He turned a corner, and he was gone. And so, as soon as I realized that, I turn around, and she turns the corner, and she was gone. And I'm like, fuck. I had an opportunity here, and I lost it. Like, there's a lesson there. Like, I shouldn't have left. I should have left the moment. I should have rode that out wherever it was going. Because I would have seen Ryan again. Or I should have left with Ryan right away. Indecision killed me. But what I did was I recognized it took a long time. Now I know how long it takes. Now I just gotta get it till it's in the moment. You just step that way. It was a really big lesson, that burn. So I decided to try to go to Orgy Dome because I haven't been laid in a long time. And I'm like, well, that might work out because that seems like it might be easy and fun, and like, why not? First time for everything. And I start walking there and I just kind of know where it is, and I get close and somebody asks me where it is, and I'm like, I don't know, but I know we're in the right area. And out of the shadows, this woman comes out, and I'm gonna call her M for this story. And M is like, oh, I know where it is. I'll walk you guys there. I was there earlier, just walking by. And cool, we start talking and we start sharing, and she's awesome. When we get there, she's like, I'm not going in with you. I just wanted to show you where it's at. I was like, oh, no, that's cool. Can we actually go get a drink and just hang out? Like, I love the conversation. And we go to the high bar, which is this bar where you like climb up on a stool and you sit on top and like you're like 20 feet off the ground and we're drinking. And it turns out that she'd seen her husband cheating on her that night. The first time at the burn. And she was devastated. Like, devastated. Like, they were together for 13 years, if I remember correctly. They had a scuba diving business in Mexico. Like, they had their lives together. And we ended up on a couch, and I just held her as she cried. I'm not saying I didn't cry, I cried too. I held her while she cried, and I gave to her everything I wish I had had. When I found out the love of my life was cheating on me. My ex is the only woman who's ever cheated me I didn't go back to. That was a very hard, that was like the hardest lesson. Just to get through the next hardest lesson. And so I go home and I realize it's time for me to write some letters to myself. And I don't know if you guys recognize this, but on some level, each one of those women was a phase of my relationship getting played out with a different person. It was like the inverse of all sorts of stuff. And for a 10 like that, that was a really powerful ending. Like, that was, M was emotionally hemorrhaging. She was hemorrhaging and she just needs somebody to hold her to stop the bleeding. And The next morning was a real chill morning. And I just sat in my tent and I wrote letters and just bawled for like hours. I wrote letters to my old self, to my brother, and to my ex. And at night, we all did a little bit of mushroom tea, and we were going to a wedding. I didn't have a bike this year. And so everybody's getting all ready and dolled up, and I'm like, I'm just gonna walk, and I start walking early, and I see everybody from the village, and granted, I'm a newbie in a lot of this village, they know each other. But I see people I know, and get all the way to where the wedding's supposed to be. It's out at the temple. I get there, I can't find a single one of them. I literally saw them 10 minutes before the temple, some of them. Get to the temple, not a soul, can't find them. And I end up in this ceremony that they have, I think, every year, it is a death and rebirth ceremony, and I'm standing there and they're playing a drum, and there's this big circle of people, and I'm a little, just like the tea was really weak, but like just standing there staring until one of the ones playing the drum does one of those like, sit the fuck down, like dude, you've been here for like 20 minutes, like just join us. And so I sit down, and it's like a two and a half hour ceremony of dying and being reborn, and I had visions of something light being put in my chest. And that, if anything, it would be nice if I built something really big, but it's up to me what that is. But it'd be nice if I built something big is the best word I could put what I got from it. And at the end of the ceremony, they lay you down after wandering the desert, and they just disappear. And you take off this blindfold and you stand up, and everybody's just looking at each other, going like, is it done? Is this it? Where are we? What's going on? We all just randomly started hugging each other, saying "Om," and I remember everything being glowy. It was a big, night, glowy hug. Everybody's blinking. It was beautiful. And after that moment, I went to the temple and I read my letters. And I sat there and I just cried. And I thought I was done. Like, I was like, oh, we checked the box, we're done, right? Like, cool. All right, I get to go play. Check that box. And I did play. I went out, I mean, it was a blast. It was a burn. I fucking loved it. The next day, I did acid for the first time. Now, I've eaten plenty of mushrooms. I've enjoyed psychedelics. But a lot of my dad's problems were blamed on his use of drugs in California in the late 60s and early 70s. And the truth is, it was really from his household abuse that affected his whole family. I didn't understand until way later. And that was a very powerful trip. It started with me running into a friend I'll call Short Stuff. She hasn't made it back to the burn yet, but she was at the Canadian camp. I can't remember the name of it. I thought it was BRC, that doesn't sound right. And we're sitting there talking, and also I was like, you just need love. Like, like this place started making sense a little bit to me. I started getting it. It's like, you just need someone to say I love you and just be here for you. And so I'm sitting there and we're talking, we're having a great time, and this girl Cheyenne shows up, and I'd met her earlier in the burn, and we had a great conversation. And I tell this girl, hey, I love you. And she gets this look of pain in her eye that I immediately knew that she totally needed that, just not from me. She was in a place where she couldn't open up to that from me because it came with so many preconceived notions and connotations that may or may have not had anything to do with me, but she couldn't let them down to let it in. And so I go to Cheyenne, I'm like, hey, that girl needs extra love. Could you just give it to her? She just can't get it from me right now. And she's, oh, fuck yeah, I got her. That's my girl. And I ran into her later, and she's like, oh yeah, we had a great time, and it was really good. And I start walking, and I run into, and I'm having conversations the whole way, but I run into Sue. I just randomly talked to Sue. Sue's on her way down for the night. Sue has been burning for a while with her husband. And so it's like 10:30, she's going to bed. And we started having one of the most deep intellectual conversations about the burn I've ever had. Like, she's one of the most wise people I've ever met. Because now I'm having all these epiphanies, all these understandings of what I believe the burn is. And I'm sitting here talking to somebody, and she's going, yep, 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 and more, and this, and that. And I was like, I've been looking for people to have this conversation my whole life. Like, I've been having this with my friends, but nothing like this. And she's like, I'm like, I need to find you. I can't lose somebody like you in my life. I cannot meet somebody like you in my life and not have you in my life. And I have no way to write things down. I am not in any state to contain information for a long period of time. It's just not happening. So she tells me your camp does yodeling. And I remember that. And as I'm walking, more and more hits me, and I walk into this bar where there is a human being that looks feminine and like an angel. That's the best way I could tell you. I could tell you anything more. And all these other people, and I walk in and I had to look like I was fucking a wreck because I walk up right in the bar. I'm like, I need you to write something down for me, like please, right now. Oh my God, please. And I'm like losing my fucking shit. I'm like, I need this person in my life. I can't lose this person. And they go get a pen and paper and like, what's the message? I'm like, just write down Sue Campbell, yodeling camp may have been sent by God. And they're like, okay, here we go. And this, like, could you imagine? Yeah. Some guy tripping balls and straight up, yeah. And they handed it to me, and the second I touched that paper, I'm like, I'm not allowed to keep this. I knew I was gonna lose it. I knew the second I would, like if I wanted this moment, I wasn't allowed to cheat. I had to hold all the way through this one. And so, I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh shit. And I'm talking to these people, I'm like, and all of a sudden I get hurt people, and I'm looking at this person who looks like an angel, and I'm like, I'm sorry they hurt you. I'm so sorry, I can see you've been hurt. Those people who've hurt you were hurt. We need to like, I'm so sorry. And like, I was intense, like I felt every bit of emotion of this whole place, all that pain. And I can see it in every single being I looked at. I could see every single pain I've ever experienced in everybody's eyes. I'm a little bit sensitive if you have not picked up on that. So going from shutting things off to this opening up was very intense. And I end up starting to talk to different people about God and what God means. And at some point, here's what my experience was like. I would be talking to one person about God, what that means, what is God, what is the universe, what is all this, right? Like the big questions. And this person would leave, and the next person would come to me, and the conversation would continue right where it left off. And this happened through like 5 or 6 different people. It was surreal. I'd never done acid. For all I knew at this point, I'm like, this is a unique drug. I didn't know this is what happens on acid. First time, right? And I get in this conversation with this guy who's an engineer who's the same age as my brother. And at this point, I had been very intense for a very long time. And he's like, hey, do you want to go for a walk and like chill out a little bit? Because like I'm sucking down water, I'm like hyperventilating, like I'm like, holy fuck. I'm like, yes, we go for a walk, and the walking is nice. And one of the best pieces of advice Sue left me with, and I use this the rest of the night, and this is part of this, just walk and breathe. Whatever gets ahead of you, just walk and breathe. It works really well. So we walked and we breathed. We find a place to chill, we start talking. And on the way to that place to chill, I turn to him and I go, can I call you Charles? You're the same age as my brother, you look a little bit like me. And he said, yeah. And I hugged him and I got to say goodbye to my brother. And like, nobody does that. Like, nobody does that. People don't do that. And like in that moment, I knew it was about to be a burner for me. I knew that is what a burner is. A burner is somebody that you can turn to and say, can I hold you and say, call you my dead brother, and can I just hug you and say I love you and I miss you and say goodbye? It's like, I didn't even get an open casket. I don't remember the last time I saw him, like it was just like hi and goodbye. I don't even really remember it. And so we talked. And we had a beautiful conversation. I wish I could find him. And I think his name was John, but I don't really remember. And I had this feeling I had to leave, and I started walking. And then at some point, I'm walking, and the best way I could describe it is existence spoke to me. And the best way to describe that experience is it was like having knowledge just show up in my brain like an epiphany, but so strong and so heavy and so loud that there's no way I could have it be my own thoughts. I could not. So if you're atheistic, acid trip so strong and wisdom's found so deep that you can't even admit to yourself it's yours, theistic, I spoke with God, and both are true. Both are true. Pick your choice. For me, it's spiritual. There's a lot more to it than just the atheistic. It's not just my subconscious. The subconscious and conscious is an aspect of this, but not the all of it. But I've been able to build my philosophy, because I was very left brain up to this point, that both must be true, because atheism must exist within God if God is true. And I'll describe what I was describing God as that night. It is everything at every place, all at once, all at the same time, both inside and outside of existence as we know it and don't know it. Atheistic, it's not conscious. Theistic, it's conscious. That's really, at the end of the day, the difference. And the universe said to me, I love you. Beautiful. You're perfect. You're flawed. Your flaws are what make you beautiful. So love yourself. Because when you love yourself, you don't just love yourself. You love yourself and you love me. And when you look at someone, love them. Because when you love them, you don't just love them. You love them. You love yourself and you love me. And I was broken down in the middle of a street, like, I don't even know what street, I couldn't even tell you, but like farther out of the city, and just crying, like on my knees crying in the middle of the street, bawling. It was like, we had beef. Like, God and I had beef. We were not cool. I even said that to somebody prior to this whole experience. I was like, God and I have beef. We are not on good terms. I did the little telephoning thingy before this. It was fun. I told them, like, we gotta work shit out. Fucking hilarious. Setting. And then I laid down on a trampoline and I just cried, and I, for that instant, saw the fractal-like nature of existence within my mind's eye, and I understood a lot. I didn't have words for it. I had to heal for it. It was very painful. But I eventually cleaned myself up, and I had some other visions, like I was coming down a mountain at some point, and while I was walking, it looked like the playa was the playa, but underneath it was like Aztec-like images. I was walking on almost like stone with Aztec images. And I was given a sword in my visions, and came down a mountain, and on some level, everybody who had brought me had conspired to get me here. Which is what we're all doing, bringing virgins, which is great. We all want everybody to get here. And I went out and I started walking in Deep Playa, and I just walked, and I walked up to person after person. I realized that how you heal this is with hugs. And I could see everybody's pain in their eyes, and I would walk up to them and say, I love you, and I think God loves you, can I give you a hug? And some people, the range would be like, oh yeah, fuck yeah, man, give me a hug, I love you too, I love God, I love this joint, man, I love that art car, like fuck yeah, I love this shit. And I'm like, wow, yeah, fuck yeah. And some people be like, whoa, why do you want to hug me? Because like this is Deep Playa, like you're just walking up out of the dark kind of. And I'm like, oh, because I'm high on acid, and I think I just talked with God, and I want to let you know He loves you and I love you. Is that cool? And they'd be like, oh, well yeah, of course then. Like, that's the best reason to do this. That you just tell the truth and they got it. And I just, even the events and interactions that played out around me, I saw the healing that people were giving each other, and the problems that would arise, and the karma playing itself out, and this interplay of energies, and the flows, and it all for like really fucking made sense. Like I just was in the zone, if you will, and just really in tune. I spent the whole night up doing that, and I walked back to camp. I mean, it was a beautiful night. I mean, really beautiful. Like, and I wake up, and I think I have lost my fucking mind. I'm seriously like, have I had a psychotic break? Like, I've had a lot of trauma. That was just that could just be acid. Like, I could have imagined all this. And I get up, and I tell my camp about my story. And I was so tender and raw at this that if a single negative even like look had showed up, I would have been traumatized. And they just held me and said, we love you. And this will make sense in time. And what's true for you may not be true for me, but you will find your truth in this. And I don't know if it's my wisdom to share. Yeah, I'll share it. Our mayor shared with me And when he spoke with God, it was a lake. And that the lake taught him that ego is thinking you know what's better for somebody else than they know themselves. And I needed that. I needed that so bad for somebody else to go, yes, that happened, and here is mine. Not but this, but yes, that and this. This burn I've been working on not using but, using and, to recognize and add to, which is what we all do here with each other. And like, there was people who were like, James has fucking lost his shit. I mean, of course, like, everybody's in different levels, but like, I just owned it. I just like, was like, okay. And the rest of that burn was me processing. It took me 3 fucking months for me to decompress. The burn did not stop when I went home. Shit was going on. I didn't know how to balance. I didn't know how to meditate. I found Kundalini yoga. I found practices, and like, even year 2 was really hard, but a camp of beautiful, lovely Israelis invited me out to Midburn. You don't have a burn like that with these people. You don't have burners come and say, come and join me in Israel, and you say no. Fuck no. You go, say, fuck yeah, I'm going to Israel. Like fuck, like, well, I love these people, but like, if this is true, like, I better go over there. And I start just following whatever shows up and trusting my intuition and just trusting signs, my signs, which atheistically could be my subconscious filtering out my experience of existence to bring me to conclusions that it needs to resolve. Theistically, God sends signs, and this is all part of the all having a conversation with us. And that conversation is through events and experiences. So I get there, and I go to see Haifa, which is one of the most integrated cities there, and I have a great time. And then I meet up with my friend who's living on a kibbutz in the Golan Heights. And we go and visit this place called Megiddo. So breathe for a minute, because this is going to be a heavy part. Just breathe, because my story is a little heavy, but it's also light, and it's fun, because we're here and we're burning. And Megiddo is Armageddon in the Christian Bible. People think it's an event. It's actually a location. It's a little bit. And I get there, we smoke a spliff, we meet this awesome dude named Shalom, whose family abandoned him because he would not conform to their really orthodox ways. And this other random guy just starts telling me that Jesus Christ is the only way. Christianity is the only thing. And I'm sitting going, these are weird messages to get here. Like, why is this militant person trying to tell me things are this way instead of going, here's what I found, this is the truth, go find your truth. And this other person, like, he's a really lovely, beautiful human being, his own family's shunning? How's that love? It didn't make sense. And there's this well there that's it's actually probably as wide as this dome. And it's 4 stories down. I climb 4 stories down, and I walk down this path, and I get to the end. My buddy Russo's with me, and I'm like, dude, I'm jumping over this gate and drinking water. I jump over the gate, and I drink some water. I'm like, I'm gonna drink the waters of Armageddon before I go burn in Midburn. I drink the water, and I go, and I burn. I have a great burn. Midburn is gorgeous. If you ever have a chance to go to Israel, it's like Burning Man was 15 years ago, maybe 20 years ago, with too much moon. They have a real moon problem. They gotta fix that shit. It's terrible. They need moon hecklers. And I have a great time, and I'm at the point now where I just kind of get it. My beautiful friend Bradley, who shot me my first Burning Man taste, one of the people who's like, you're kind of a natural. And I'm like, okay. I don't know what that means when he first told me, but as I've come along, I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, I get this. I can do this. And then I end up in this city spot that later on by myself, and I have a beautiful, magical time there. And there's a lot to this story. Like, in Spot, I ended up 5 minutes before this class, a Kabbalic study, because I followed butterflies. What a fun thing to do. And I found this cool orange shag carpet on the top of a mountain, so I put it on the mountain. I put rocks in there so you can meditate and view the mountainside. You know, what a fun thing to do. I just had a lot of fun there, and I was like the only American in this city, so like everybody's in Hasidic Jewish clothing. And I'm like, well, maybe not this attire, but like you can imagine. I make friends, and I end up walking 10 miles down the city because some guy told me to go to this fountain to bathe in. I bathed in the fountain, and on the way, I was not allowed to bathe in the fountain because I'm not Jewish. Wow, how loving. How loving. I was very upset by that. Because I started to get it, like I'm getting it. I get what love is. And so I bathe there, and I make friends with this guy as a taxi driver, drives me all the way back. And then after that, my buddies Russo and Slutsky, Russo picks me up from the bus stop, and he's like, I got you a surprise, a spliff and a Slutsky. Slutsky was a friend I didn't think I was gonna see. Like, what wonderful blessings. These people are like, just blessings, everyone here. I go to my second burn after this, and I have a day of yes. Yes starts on, I think, Friday night and ends Sunday morning. I end up without water, my big fur coat, like 11 o'clock, and I tell somebody my Megiddo story, because I am feeling very intense. And I felt like being a lot, and I was fucking a lot at that moment. And I tell them, and like, the look of like, just terror of even having this conversation. Even discussing that this might be possible and true. This person was like, wow, like, they were in shock. The next person I tell the story though, they go, I have a gift for you. That's a great story. Come over to my camp. We're at like 2:30. I had my bike stolen. It's sun's out. It's Sunday morning. I'm supposed to be breaking camp. I hop art car to art car across D Playa. I get there. Turns out it's the Earth Guardian camp. Those guys are fucking great. And this guy, he's the water bearer for their camp. He's this cool blue head mask of real feathers. And he sits me down, and they're having their closing camp meeting. And I sit there, he goes and does this thing, he comes back with water for me. It is water from 150 places around the earth that they collected, that they put in their fountain to show the amount of intention they care and love about the earth and the bird and the people and the intention here, like everything. And he's like, may I anoint you with this? And he did. And I'm sitting there, like after a day of yes, and he gives me this bottle of water, I'm like, I gotta go, I gotta get back to camp. And like, I get an art card to go back to camp, and like, the weight of this gift is still not processing. Like, it's just a lot. And I get back to camp, and I tell Tim and his wife about it, and they're like, okay, cool. But like, even for them, that's a lot. Like, I got my playa name a lot from Sue, my sage, because I did find her off playa. I found one yodeling camp that passed it to another yodeling camp that passed it to another yodeling camp, and they each handed me off to the right person until I found her husband, because she's not even online. Her husband put her in touch with me, and then I met her in San Francisco because I was there on a work trip, and they hung out with me. And I told them my story, and they were like, that's a lot. Maybe your playa name's a lot. And they've been birding for 15 years. I'm like, oh, yeah, that fits. That's the first nickname I've ever had that fit. I love it. I'm trying to throttle it, so one day I'm just James, but right now it's still a lot. It's gotten better. And so I went home, and my lovely friend Jesse, who I met when this started, was one of the first people who I connected with, and I shared a lot of the story with, because I was freaked the fuck out. And it was like just all coming out, because I'm like, you're a burner, you've been going a while, you understand this. And she's like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Oh my fucking God, what are you talking about? But I love you, you're a wonderful person. And we baby stepped through that. It was a lot of work, but a lot of love. And we held each other. And that led me to the Lion's Den, which is why we're here today, is that I've had a lot happen in my life. I've been gifted a lot of things. And I've come to the fundamental belief in my philosophy, and I wish you to test your own. Don't listen to me on any of this. This is my story. You need to read from the book of life of your own story and learn your lessons. Just what I found is as people share their lessons, they realize that even though you do your work alone, by yourself, you don't have to be alone. And these stories help you build the tools you need. And I come here, the freest place in existence, the best party in existence. And there are people who are afraid to talk and share their stories because they're hurt. Their boundaries have been neglected or abused. They're scared, they're awkward. Well, a number of things. I mean, this is a lot of stuff to talk about. To open up about your deepest, innermost thoughts and feelings with people you just met. And that for them to go, oh yeah, And here's this other guy who's another model in this other system that might also be a way this all works. And like, let's pick up the pieces here, let's pick up the pieces there. And the Lions Den is a place to turn this up to 11 and get really good at it. I want people to have the tools in these conversations to not be afraid anymore. I want them to be comfortable in their truth. They don't have to be comfortable in my truth, but I want them to be loving enough for us all to have our space to have our own truths. And so I'll tell you what I really think what Burning Man is, because I see it everywhere now. It's just a lot here. But when I go out into the world, what I see is heaven bursting forth into existence. And this has always been going on, it has always been there, but it is now entering into our consciousness that this state of mind, which on some level is a state of mind, is growing, and we're figuring out how to do it. And it requires a healed psyche for us to build the societies that we need to give us all space to be infinitely loving to ourselves and each other. It's gonna hurt. It hurts a lot. But if you get through the pain, you get to burn your life. Heal yourself. Your life gets to be the burn. Not only that, those people who are hurting, they get to get a little piece of this place by simply being around you. Simply by being your beautiful self. You heal the world by coming here and learning how to heal, and then you go out and you heal it by being yourself. And quite frankly, the world will beat your ass up. Life is hard, it's a challenge. And that's why we come back here, we kind of refresh and recharge and hold each other and say, can I cuddle you? Can I hold you? Could we go make love? Could we just talk? Could we just look at each other for a minute? Maybe just hold a pinky. Just a little connection, that's all I can handle right now. Just a little bit. And I want that to grow. And so I talked first about how to human, because I had to learn about it meant to be human, because I wasn't treated like I was human. We all just want to be loved. We all just want to be treated like we're human. I was treated as if I was a monster, because my parents were treated like they were monsters. Monsters make monsters. And then my next talk was about defeating fear, and I was terrified to do this work. Terrified, because I live in Chicago. I'm just somebody from the western suburbs of Chicago, and you start talking about the truth about God, not what the church says, not what Judaism or Buddhism or Hinduism, all of them, every single religion has truth in them, but forget about the religious structure and just go, what's the truth of these? There's all infinite love within them, and people look at you like you're crazy. Unless you get it, and you're here, and people go, no, they're crazy. They're crazy. They use all these things as tools to hurt each other, and then say that you're the crazy one for going, why aren't you just hugging each other and saying I love you? Saying I'm sorry, like, it's not that hard. If you're raised with it, it's really easy. My daughter makes it look like it's child's play, whereas I've had to battle my whole life for 38 years, and I'm still working on the stuff that happened when I was 8. Just to be here, to sit here, because I really feel this place. And I want to see us all heal all the way, and there's many different thoughts on that subject. Some people say you'll never heal all the way. My current thesis is, if we increase the rate of healing and the volume of healers to a tipping point, it will automatically happen, and we will all reach a point of healing, possibly in a generation, maybe 2. I think it's possible to heal all the way through. That doesn't mean there won't be problems. It's just that we'll be able to handle those problems from a healed place. So we go, if you go all the way through, the world's perfect. It's like, nope, that's not how that works. You're just able to handle your imperfect world and still have a smile on your face and know how to handle the hard stuff and cry and love and feel all of your feelings when it's appropriate to feel all of your feelings. And yesterday, my friend Jody came and talked about growing up a Jehovah's Witness and being locked out of her family, being excommunicated, and how that affected her and her family. And Kat came and spoke about her experience. And I want more people to come here and talk about these things to the point where these conversations are just Tuesday. I want it to just be Tuesday. I want it to be Wednesday. It's Wednesday, guys. This is just what we do on Wednesdays. We talk about our deepest, most painful shit. You know why? Because it gets out a little bit, and then we wander off into the world, and it's way easier. Because if I can walk around naked on mushrooms, smoking a spliff, walking out to the temple, and then go party, I can walk into that boardroom. I can walk to that meeting. I can talk to that stranger. If you push it here and you turn up to 11 here, the default world gets easier. You kind of supercharge yourself. And I wanted to see more of that. And that's the impetus of this. And like, I just want to see the world heal. I really do love people. I've learned all these rules for love. What's funny is once I had my awakening, beautiful, wise people show up in my life. Very wise women show up and give me wonderful things like, you just have to meet somebody halfway. I've added, trying is lying, it's doing. You can do something really terribly, but you gotta be doing it. But they gotta meet you halfway. The other one taught me, it's how will they meet you at your level. You meet me at my level, I will be here. I'll hug you, I'll snuggle you, I love you, make love, we're really close. A little lower, there's a little distance. Keep going. You don't meet me at all my level, you're not in my life, but I love you. I love you. Like my mom and dad may be here and I love them, but like I can't have them here because that's not loving to me. And I think there's rules and wisdom to love and to burning hard and getting good at this. And I want everybody here to get really good at this because it feels good. It feels really good at the end of the day. You get to enjoy moments that you were locked out of for things that you couldn't control. And this is heavy stuff, but at the end of the day it becomes light. Because we're emotionally lifting weights. So I'm going to close with what my big project is that I want to do that ties into this. I'm taking the wisdom I found in the world, I'm working on developing an app called Love You that I'm hoping by speaking about today I manifest deeper. Love You teaches you to love yourself for 1 to 5 minutes a day for 30 days by speaking consciously into a mirror. We do this because we short circuit our hypocrisy. We give everybody better advice than we give ourselves. We naturally do it. I'm talking about the splinter in your eye when I have a piece of lumber in mine. By doing it in the mirror, we short circuit that and you become your own best friend. You start speaking to that being over there, and that being over there, you start loving infinitely, you start telling the truth all the time. 5 minutes a day, you eventually can't do anything but tell that being the truth, and that being is you, and you heal. And it is the best way I've found to baby step people to burn themselves a little bit each day for fun. It's like an exercise, emotional lifting weights, right? Baby step it. And each day, like day one is just look at yourself in the mirror and love what you see. Because you may not know how to do that. You may be in a place where you don't know that. Day 3 is introduce yourself to yourself. You may not know yourself anymore. You may find yourself going, who the fuck am I? When did I get to the point where I let my whole self be cannibalized for one other person? Who am I? If I don't want to be that, who do I want to be? Day 7 is a dig deep day. You're not being honest with yourself about something. Just tell yourself what that is, because once you speak it, it's human and thus manageable. When you speak your problems out to yourself, the solutions will come to you. It's not all at once, it's not easy, but it starts. This goes all the way down. And day 30, I'm putting the wisdom that the universe shared with me. And those words are now your words. They're not mine. They were shared with me. They're deep wisdom. I found them in other forms elsewhere in the world. But it is a mindset. And after the burn, I couldn't help not seeing God in every single person's eyes. You're God of your own reality. You're not my God. I'm not your God. You're God of your own reality. You are an emanation, a fractal-like emanation of the all, in my experience. And it's beautiful. And it's lovely. And I want people to see that. And if that was a lion card, which I swear it was, that was pretty cool. Because I love this place for that shit. Because that shit's real. Once you come and accept that, that shit is real. That's magic. Magic's real. Magic isn't what you think it is. It also is. I want to get good at it because it seems like the better you get at it, the better you love and the better you'll shine light. So this is my love poem. This app is my love song, my love everything to the universe that I would like to share. And I think that it could go viral because like version 2, you will hopefully do this when it records your voice in your video. And it'll have a little Love You tag on it. Because it's Love You is like love yourself, it's also Love University. And as people share it, share themselves loving themselves, more people will see how to love themselves and hear the stories, and it will hopefully emanate out through existence as the self heals. And we look at ourselves through our devices, which magnifies the individual, and we find other tools. So that's the tool I want to bring, and I hope it starts an evolution of tools to heal the self. And I think that's what these talks are. I think that's what this is. That's what we're all here doing. And thank you everybody for your time. I really love you guys. And we talk about some really heavy shit here. And then we go out and we drink some really good drinks, and we do some drugs, and we make love, I don't know, however you want to do that. And we realize life is a beautiful, fucking wonderful celebration. This place is awesome. And the fact that we get to sit here and even talk about it is a celebration of existence. And I love it. And I love all of you. So, thank you.